Welcome to the Queer Body. I'm so happy to have everybody here. Just a reminder that we have launched our new website at thequeerbody.com. Make sure you put the in there, TheQueerbody.com. We will be offering classes starting in the spring. Hopefully, some of the wonderful people you've been listening to on the podcast will be teaching some of those classes. You are also welcome to join our community. We have 3 months of free membership for people who are interested. Just sign in and we'll give you that coupon. This afternoon, I am delighted to have a colleague and friend, Trinity, speaking to us, and I will have them introduce yourself. Welcome, Trinity.
Thank you, Laura. My name is Trinity, and I am joining you all on Miwok land, Southern Pomo and Grayton Rancheria in Santa Rosa, California. And just a little bit about myself. I currently work at Greenacre Homes in Sebastopol as a client service manager. And I've been with this agency for about 25 years. I'm a Kundalini Yoga teacher. I just show up and just do life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Best way that I know how to. Trust that everybody else is doing their very best.
I love that.
Yeah, which allows me to really work towards not taking life personally. It doesn't always work, but
you're human. I hear that.
I really do my best, to just trust that everybody's showing up and doing their best, and I'm really showing up and doing my best at any given moment. And so that's where I am currently, is just showing up and doing my best.
Thank you. And just for our audience, I will say, Trinity and I have been meeting in all these wonderful classes. I have had the joy of taking Kundalini with Trinity, as well as doing some West African dance here in Santa Rosa together. And then the queer part, which we always start our show with, is, we're just getting to know each other that way. We were noticing each other from different communities. And so how would you define queer? What does being queer mean to you?
Laura, I've been thinking about this. And how do I define queer? So what came to me today, right? Because it's different depending upon the day for me. I haven't just landed in this, like, this is what queerness means to me, right? And so I take it to a spiritual place for me, right? And in Kundalini Yoga, we talk about the masculine and the feminine. And I've always feel like I've shown up very androgynous, so walking with my feminine and my masculine side, sometimes running more masculine, and other times running, a little bit more feminine. And so I see queerness for myself as being very fluid. So I don't just land in, right, I'm just masculine, and or I'm just showing up feminine within the queer expression. I flow in between both, and so queerness to me is really about being fluid, and appreciating the masculine and the feminine within myself. And I haven't always appreciated definitely the feminine side of myself. I could keep going. You ask me a question and I could just keep going on.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to jump in there with you. And that is that, there's a couple things. I know you kind of more through a spiritual realm, but in the queer realm, when we're talking about masculinity and femininity, I don't know that people often think of queer as having anything to do with, in this world, we would think gender. And I know, because I know you from a spiritual community, you're not really speaking about gender. You're talking about something else. Will you kind of elaborate on that?
So what As I was thinking about it today, what I sense is like it's the, the feminine, not the gender, but the feminine expression of life, of energy, of my beingness, right? And then the masculine. So the feminine is, the womb, the going within, the contraction, the contracting aspect of energy, and then the masculine is the out there and doing things. And so it's not, I don't really see it, I don't feel into it as much as gender as I do just energy,
Mhm.
right? And
And what
then
on earth does that have to do with, like, like if I go into Target and I see a queer shirt with rainbow flags and crap like that, I
mhm,
mean, how is what you're talking about related to that?
um hmm well, that's a good question. How is it related, how is it related to queerness? Well, so I'm getting no, because I don't really think about, I don't tend to lean into the gender, or the hmm.
I think most people think of queerness as a sexuality thing, but one of the reasons I started the Queerbody podcast
Mm-hmm.
is that the younger generations are thinking about queer in relationship to, gosh, Trinity. At one moment, I was like, I'm going to start calling myself peculiar.
Mm-hmm.
So what I hear you talking about is like some sort of being outside of the dominant paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people, when they talk about masculine and femininity, think about the dominant paradigm. And so the queerness of that is like how we have taken that on as our own understanding of the union of those genders within your spirit, within your
Mm-hmm.
being.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself is a queering of an idea, is what I hear you saying. But I
Mm-hmm.
certainly don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I think that the stepping outside of the predominant, right, paradigm is definitely what I'm doing, because I, again, the when I think of feminine and masculine, right, it doesn't, energy, it doesn't lean into um, the physical body, the gender, right, of the body.
Mhm,
Um, and I walk with, right, with both the masculine and the feminine. Um, and I think for myself, um, I'm, how old am I? I'll be 54 this year, and it's been a journey, of not so much questioning, um, but sort of just letting in this place of just being okay, right?
mm,
Just being okay with um, really not wanting to have any labels. I remember when I very first came out, and people were like, well, you're this or you're that, or this is when it was literally just you're lesbian, or or you're gay man. And I remember just going, huh, I don't really like that.
mhm,
Kind of boxes me into having to be, when I'm an androgynous spiritual being, that happens to be um, attracted, to women. Uh,
mhm,
and Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm sort of trying to pull this together and, figure it out right now, because I don't really talk about this a whole lot
mhm,
or discuss this, a lot. What I know is that when I sit in my spiritual practices and I hear my teachers talk about um, the first marriage of the the masculine and the feminine energies, and that be their first marriage, right? Versus marriage, between a man and a woman, then something in me says, wow, we really, as a species, went sort of left, right, into this. Oh, if you're a man, this is how you show up, and if you're a woman, oh, this is how you have to show up, and this is, and I'm just like, no, I actually have both within me, and I get to choose when I come into this life if I'm going to, how within the spectrum of both of those, right, the masculine and the feminine, how far do I want to lean into, right, the feminine? Do I want to come in predominantly, right, like female, not female, feminine, right, that feminine energy, giving birth, holding up the house, so on and so forth, and bring in less of the male? That's my choice. That is entirely up to me of how I want to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's not really up to society, although society has put many pressures upon us, right, to say this is how you have to show up, and I've gotten involved in a lot of that and working it off of me. But as I'm journeying through my journey, with different teachers, who are saying kind of the same thing, like, wow, you have your masculine and the feminine, and there's that marriage between those two. And that's what you want to bring into balance in order to bring everything else into balance, right? And once you have that relationship between those two within yourself, then, and you're appreciating the masculine and the feminine, then I can go, okay, it's like baking a cake, or, learning to, baking, there's the foundation. And then from there, you can learn how to make all these other, other things from the foundation, right? And so my foundation is that I have a solid relationship within myself between my two. And then when I come in to manifest, right, then I'm going to go, this time I'm going to have the experience of being, I'm going to try on being, just way more feminine in this lifetime, maybe way more sensual, or this time with, some masculinity, and I'm going to bring in more testosterone, and you know what I mean? It's like my choice.
Yeah. Well, and maybe even in each moment, you bring your masculine part forward or your feminine part, depending on what the circumstances requested.
Right. Okay, good. I'm making sense. You just pull that out and just.
I'm following you. I got you. And actually, you segued me beautifully, because when you talk about bringing it into your body and then making this manifest reality, then what do you do with that? Because the next part, of course, is to hear about, well, how are you queering your work in the world? Like, and if I'm understanding you right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's more about queering of ideas than a sexuality in this context. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your work from a queering perspective?
My work, I work in an environment where I encounter youth that are experiencing and growing up in situations where they may not be received very well. And so my level of comfort within myself has allowed me to speak up and work in an environment where I was able to support creating a safe environment for these youth. And my work, I over time, for a long time I worked in the homes, so I went in dressed in t-shirts and and jeans and tennis shoes, and when I began to work in the office, I was like, well, wait a minute. Well, how am I going to dress? Well, I ain't going to dress like that. Nope, I will not be putting on nobody's pumps. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. And I mean, I can wear some pumps if I want to, and I don't want to,
Mhm,
you know?
mhm.
And so it was interesting for me to get comfortable, and to go out and to pick out a whole wardrobe that's very masculine centered. Everything that I wear to work is all of my clothes are I'm sorry, there's people walking around my house. Um,
Hi, people. Do you
um,
need to take a break? Are you okay?
I do. Can we pause for just 1 second?
Not a problem. I'll
Thank you very
pause.
much, because I need to catch
Mhm.
these guys.
So, right before we got interrupted, we were talking about how you are clothing your body in a way that either represents the masculine or the feminine in a conventional workplace. And I'd love to hear the end of that, but I also really want to hear about the work you bring to the world through your Kundalini practice and as a teacher of Kundalini Yoga.
Okay. So to close on the how I clothe myself, um, I'm quite comfortable, and um, my work has created an environment that supports that, and so I
Hmm.
appreciate that.
Hmm.
I really appreciate Green Acre Homes, and while I've been with Green Acre Homes, I became a Kundalini yoga teacher. Um, my introduction to Kundalini Yoga was through Queen Hollins. She's out of LA, out of Long Beach. And I had gone to an amazing retreat in Jamaica. Um, and we were up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, every morning, and doing this amazing breath work. And, you know, uh, postures. And this is my first introduction to like doing yoga, and breath work at the same time. And I haven't looked back since. My experience um, there was life changing, um, life altering, in every way, shape, and form. It took me a minute to eventually land in becoming a teacher. As a matter of fact, it didn't even register that I could even do that. I was just um, caught in the change in my connection to my surroundings, um, to my body, and to my breath. I was just encapsulate encapsulated in that. And when I came back from Jamaica in 2017, I knew that I wanted to do this on a daily basis, but I didn't have the discipline to do that, you know. And so I thought about it a lot.
The first step.
I know folks can relate to that. I know folks who can relate to that, right? So I thought about it. I was like, yeah, I really want to get up. Boy, we in Jamaica. It's so much easier when you have, when you're with other people sometimes to do that, to encourage you to do that.
Mhm.
And so it was a process. It was really a process um, of going to another retreat, um, and feeling the difference between how I felt when I did this practice and when I didn't do this practice. Um, and I went to another retreat in Jamaica with a field walking tree in Queen Hollins, and by the time I left that retreat, right, the difference is that a lot of people are like, well, I'm going home from vacation and now all is ruined, and I'm like like we can't take with us, right? That beingness, right? Like we can't take that with us. Like we have to go back into, right? And the thing about Kundalini Yoga is that it's the householder's yoga, which means, and I was literally thinking about that this morning. This is the yoga that I take everywhere. I just don't do it in the studio, right? Like I'm at work and I'm breathing, right? Nobody needs to know what I'm doing. I'm at work and I may move into a posture, right? And do long, deep breathing.
Okay, but for real, some of our people are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like you're doing tree pose at work. Like for some people, this is a brand new.
Tree pose at work. I'm just saying I have an office, but no. So I do long, deep breathing. So that's, where I'm inhaling and breathing all the way into my abdomen. I'm not lifting my shoulders, but just really breathing all the way into the abdomen. Sometimes I'll put my hands on my abdomen so that I can feel that the abdomen is expanding, and I can see that my hands, let's see if I can, so that I can see that my hands are expanding as, right, so that you can have that visual. And I'll do that sometimes, or breath of fire. Breath of fire, where I need more energy. So I'm going to, breath of fire is where I'm pumping the belly, pumping the navel point, right?
Not everybody can see you, so can you break it down with words?
I sure can. So everybody I'm sure has seen a dog, right? Pant. So what you want to do is you want to stick your tongue out and then pant like a dog slowly. If you are pregnant and or menstruating, I would encourage you to stay away from the breath of fire.
Why is that?
Because you don't want to put more pressure on the abdomen and pushing out. I remember when I was menstruating, and if I was to do that, right, like more, more would come out, more blood might, right? So you don't want to put more pressure, and also you don't want to put pressure on the baby. You want to keep everything. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm panting like a dog, just to bring you back to where we were.
I'm like panting like a dog, right? So that's even breath on both sides, right? Breath going out and breath coming back in, even on both sides. And then all you do is you close your mouth and you do that through your nose. And you can place your hand on the belly so that you can feel the navel, right? And the abdomen pumping. And when first doing this, it's a good idea to go slow and not to go really fast. If you start to feel lightheaded or like you're going to faint, then move into long, deep breathing. And long, deep breathing, it's a good idea to do maybe like a count of 4. So on the inhale, you're counting 4. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and all the breath is through the nose. And then on the exhale, you're counting 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And on an inhale, count 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the exhale, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So why do I want to do the breath of fire or the 4-4 breathing? When do I do what?
Breath of fire is to, for more energy. Let's say that you're at work, or I'm at work and I'm like, oh, man, wow, I don't have any energy. I'm just like, I'm dragging. And the breath of fire is a breath that you can activate and bring in. Also, upon waking up, it's a good energizer, to bring more life force energy into the body and into the mind. The long, deep breathing is one that will calm, right? Bring calm. So it's both of these work on the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, right? Bringing the body and the mind and the heart out of fight, flight, and freeze mode.
So you're telling me if I just do these couple breathing things at work, I'm doing yoga?
Exactly.
That's super cool. That's a real different approach.
Pranayama. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I did the beginning of last year. I was like, ooh, I think I'm going to do a breath exercise. And it was simply breath of fire and long, deep breathing um, I think we did it for like 30 days. And then everybody was enjoying it so much that I tacked on a few extra days. I would just get up every morning and post a video, and people would, follow along. And what individuals had to share about their own personal experience was that there's more space, right, between the emotions and the emotional body and the reactivity, right, to what's happening outside of oneself and or what's happening within oneself. I'll speak for myself. My personal experience has been that I personally have more space between what I think is happening and what's actually happening, right? Whether or not I'm going to say something, do I need to say something? And if I am going to say something, how am I going to say this, right? As well as my intuition. I'm more in tuned and trusting my personal intuition, right? It's like we have like when you get in your car and you put into the GPS, boop, here's an address, you're going to go from point A to point B, right? And that's my intuition is my internal GPS, and so when my internal GPS is like, don't go that way, and I'm like, I'm going that way. Right? And the internal GPS is like, proceed to the route. Proceed to the route, right? And I'm like, but I know where I'm going. You know what I'm saying? And then I go and I'm like, oh man, I really should have proceeded to the route because I had just created a whole mess over here, right? And it's over time, right? Like the more engaged with the breath that I become, the more I go, you don't even have to tell me to proceed to the route. I'm not even going down that route, And
that was really beautifully said. I can so get all of that, right? For sure.
And or through my dreams, like if I when I'm heading into work, even before I get into work, my intuition will go, right, already there's an incident at work that's happening, right, either between me and a coworker, like I got stuff going on, they got stuff going on, and we are going to bump heads, right? And through the breath, rather than getting flooded by those feelings, right? Because everything is energy. Rather than getting flooded and blindsided, not even knowing that I'm getting flooded and blindsided, what happens is that when I'm tuning into my breath on a regular basis, I can go, oh, what is that? Oh, something's trying to get my attention. Something doesn't feel right. And then, right, a coworker or somebody will come through the door and I'll be like, and then I'll feel their energy. And I'm like, oh, now I don't need to be like, oh, you need to go sage or something because something's going on over there. Don't do that, right? What I can do, right, is be like, okay. So we're getting ready to hook in a way that we don't need to. And being tuned into the breath, right, allows me to not allow my mind and my body to run the show, right? One of the things that I've learned, and I love this mantra, and I'm sure you've heard me say this in class before, but the breath leads the mind and the mind leads the body, right? The breath leads the mind and the mind leads the body. And the more that I'm tuned into my breath, the more I have space to make a conscious decision about the directions that I'm headed in, and or to step out of the way, to step clearly out of the way of somebody else who's doing whatever it is that they're doing, Driving is always a good example of that.
That one doesn't usually get to me, but that's because I'm always listening to something anyway. But, let me ask you a couple other questions in this world. What when you bring up mantra, I go, okay, one of the things I've always loved about Kundalini
Mhm,
is that I can go much farther and go deeper into myself
mhm,
when I'm chanting.
mm, mhm,
What's up with the chants for people who like, really for a lot of people, yoga is a thing. They don't know there's many, many different styles.
mhm.
So why is Kundalini a chanting yoga? And then the other one I get from every person I ever talk to about it is, isn't it supposed to be about sex? Those are the two things people think of with Kundalini.
So Kundalini, my understanding of Kundalini, right, is it's the energy, right, that starts at the base of the spine and goes up, right? So it's the way that I see it is um yeah, it's a life force energy that's at the base of the spine and then goes up, up the back, up the spine and out. So it's not I think that it involves sex. It's, as far as Kundalini is concerned, is I don't I don't think so. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not
I
that's
think
not
maybe it's
what's
the
happening
raising of
to me.
that serpentine energy that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people have not experienced in other places except for
Mm-hmm.
in the bedroom. So that when they feel it in a spiritual practice, if they have any type of energetic spiritual sex,
Mm-hmm.
that when they feel it in the classroom, it's alarming to them because that's their only reference point is my thinking about it, but I don't know. You're the teacher. I am the
Yeah,
student.
I'm not yeah, we all come to to class with our own perspective and our own bag of stuff to clear. And so w- in some cultures, right, that that energy, right? I know that in the um that the movement of the pelvic area and that region, right, where it's always, moving and right, it's very natural. It's very it doesn't necessarily have to do with physical sex, right?
Mhm,
As much as it has to do with the creative energy, right? The
mhm,
creative
mhm,
um expansive energy. Um, and I think we have again gone down a certain road where it's like, oh, it's about sex, and it's that's probably a piece of it, but it's not the foundation. It's more the creative to me, right? It's and yeah, more the
no, I so
creative.
appreciate that. I often say with people who are, not involved in sexual relationships that creative energy is really important now. And
Mm-hmm,
so the creative energy that's flowing in a Kundalini class could also be a part of that, or
mm-hmm,
painting, or dancing, or many other creative process. We get, again, this cultural matrix locks us into one way of creation,
mm-hmm.
particularly in the masculine feminine, that it's gotta be this way to create a baby, which is really broken.
Mhm. Right, right. And so I to me, right, coming into a Kundalini class or any type of class that's going to move that energy, though when that stuff comes up, it's about going deeper into the breath, right? So that there's more space to see what really is, you know. Um what's really happening there, or what is really trying to meant to happen there. A lot of people have been exposed to um, sex in ways that it isn't healthy, you know, and
Mhm,
so I can see how um, um, it would be um, important as a teacher to hold very clear space um, for individuals who are trying to figure those things out, you know.
yeah, I hear that, and it's just the thing, I think they sell it at, the bookstores and whatnot, Kundalini, la, 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 but then the other piece is the mantra piece.
Mhm.
So why does Kundalini Yoga use mantra?
Mantra is a way of changing the mind, you know, changing the patterns of thinking. And we have mantras, right? We all have mantras. that we say and we think over and over and over again, you know, and coming into Kundalini Yoga and learning, you know, like Sat Nam is one that we use, and Sat is truth and Nam is identity, right? So truth is my identity. And so a lot of times when we're doing a posture or an asana, right, we'll sit in like for Sat Kriya, right, we'll do Sat Nam, 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 Sat Nam. And it's a way, my experience of it has been that it's a way for my mind, as I'm working with the breath, then my mind is being invited, right, to have a new wave pattern, you know, way of thinking to come in to loosen. It's like Kundalini Yoga is like Drano, right? You know, it loosens the clogs, you know, the calcification of mental stuckness or mental. I would say for myself, the level of trauma that I have released just by breathing and doing Kundalini Yoga since 2019 is phenomenal. It truly is phenomenal. That over time, right? Knowing that the breath, or feeling it in my body, right? Like that the breath leads the mind and the mind leads the breath leads the mind and the mind leads the body, right? And I go, oh, okay. So when something's going on and I really want to go over there and eat that cookie, then I'm allowing my body to lead. I'm not allowing the mind to lead, right? I mean, I'm not allowing the breath to lead. So I kind of went off on a little tangent, didn't I?
No, that's all right. I'm following you, and I'm gonna pull it back together, and again, you redirect me. I'm just kind of the corraller. So we have kind of 3 things we're working with: the breath.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is the mantra.
Mm-hmm.
And you led us in a couple of breath exercises. You just led us in Sat Nam, Sat Nam. And if we're just listening to audio, which the podcast is, will you marry those 2 together for us, the breath and the mantra for Sat Nam, the one you just did? Or if you'd like to lead us in another one, I would love to hear that as well.
Hmm. So, so the Sat Nam, so you would bring your hands together, and then you're going to fold down the pinky, the ring, and the middle finger, and then you're going to have your pointing finger pointing straight up. And then if you are running feminine energy, then you're going to have your left thumb on top of your right. And then if you're running masculine, then vice versa, right? You have the right thumb on top. You're going to bring the arms up, straight up, as though your pointing fingers are pointing straight up to the sun. The eyes are closed down, and we would inhale and exhale. And then on the next inhale, we would go Sat Nam, right? And when we say Sat, we're pulling in the navel as though we're pulling the navel back towards the back, right? Sat Nam, 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 Sat Nam. The arms, if you can get those arms to squeeze as though your arms are gonna squeeze your ears, that's good. If not, just do your best. The thing about Kundalini Yoga is that it's a self-initiation. So we just show up right where we are. no competition. And here we're going to inhale deeply. And then exhale and just sweep the arms down. Shake the shoulders out if you need to shake the shoulders out. And place the palms in your lap. And inhale here. And exhale. And there you have it, Sat Kriya. Now, Sat Kriya can be done 3 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, 31 minutes, actually, and you can actually also go online and look up Sat Kriya. And it's SAT and then Kriya. Come on, KRIYA. Yes.
You did it. Yes. And just a reminder to folks who are listening, we are YouTubing this. The editing may not be such a form, but she's showing us this as we're talking as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And already a state change, which is why I didn't do it with you, so that I could stay grounded because I go, woo.
I can feel it.
I see it. Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. Anything else you want to share that we didn't get to that you feel needs to be spoken?
I don't. I'm always like, I don't think so, but la 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 la. No, I appreciate being asked to come on Queerbody and to share. I've enjoyed myself, and yeah, I look forward to. I'm hoping that anybody who felt called, an inner call to check out Kundalini Yoga, do. My experience of becoming a teacher was such that I had come back from the retreat, and I was at a drum event, and I was shown the flyer for my current teacher that assisted me in getting my certificate. And when the flyer was shown to me, it literally was like, you're doing this. And I haven't had that experience in my life, but I knew that whatever needed to be cleared and moved would be cleared and moved so that I could become a Kundalini Yoga teacher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Universal, yes. I love that. Mm-hmm. So I will do my little infomercial, which is that Trinity does teach classes here locally when I twist her arm. If they wanted to take a class with you, you're teaching classes online, right?
I am currently not teaching classes.
Okay.
I'm currently not teaching classes. I'm in the process of so I'm also affiliated with an organization called Solidarity Farms. We are located in Jamaica, and I'll be meeting with one of my teammates this Friday to look at putting out breath exercises, right? So a series, so that we get up every day, we do long deep breathing and or breath of fire for 30 days or for 40 days, and so that if people are interested, they can look us up on Instagram, Solidarity Farms Ja.
Awesome. And then we'll put you in the resources page on the queerbody.com so that whatever they'd like to reach you at. Is there any other things that they can reach you at?
There's my email address, which is Spirit at infinite ways of being.
.com.
.com. Thank you. .com. And
Yeah.
that will be also the my website name when I get that up and going.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate your point of view and your sharing with our community. Many blessings.
You are welcome, and thank you for asking.
Mm.